Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education Board meeting for November 9th will now come to order. The time is 6:05. And for your information, Board Member Julio Silverio is joining us by Zoom. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Mali will be leading us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mali. At this time, we will begin public participation. The board welcomes public participation at this time. We will call people in the order in which they signed up. Each person is permitted to speak for no more than 2 minutes. A bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again at the end of the 2 minutes. I ask that you please respect this limit. Profanity will not be tolerated. If used, we will turn off the microphone, and the person will be asked to leave the room. I'd like to remind everyone that during public comment, the board is in listening mode, and as such, board members do not respond to comments. Also, written public comments may be sent by email to info@lawrenceallianceforeducation.org no later than 2 o'clock in the afternoon of our meeting. Our first public participant is Mr. Mali.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. Thank you, Honorable Cynthia Paris and Lawrence LAE members for granting contract to our teachers. Please do the same for our hard-working cafeteria worker. They need the best contract now. Lawrence Public School, with the impeccable leadership by Honorable Cynthia Paris, moving forward from the first day that he arrival in our city from the Columbia gas crisis. He lead our public education to the best triumphant success. With now the worst pandemic, global pandemic, Honorable Superintendent stood up with our children. That is why she earned the title of the best superintendent in the history of Lawrence. Lawrence Public School, with the best policy of 100 days just listen to our citizen, parent, and school staff, has become a permanent success policy because of her leadership, community, and parental involvement has improved. The exciting news of building new school made every Lawrentian proud. But our job as a citizen not over yet. We demand the best contract for our hard-working cafeteria worker who work so hard. We demand compensation for Lawrence Public School paraprofessional. Lawrence Teachers Union must know forever we are thankful for their hard work and the sacrifices. In this election year, we are united to support our paraprofessional and cafeteria workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jean Zembruski.
Good evening. My name is Jean Zembruski. I'm president of the Lawrence Administrators Association. We represent assistant principals, supervisors, and deans. The first thing I'd like to mention is congratulations to the central office team and the unions that have, and principals that have settled their contracts already. And I understand there's preparations for contract negotiations with the non-union members. At this time, the LAA is in year 2 of a contract, or no contract, and we've been in negotiations for a number of months. We've met a number of times. I'm hoping that we're not the last union unit without a contract, but I am requesting that we put attention to that. During these talks that we've had, we've made many concessions and compromises in order to reach an agreement that is fair to both sides. We're looking for equal wins here. Our members are hardworking, committed individuals who hold certification in their field and professionally perform their duties daily despite the challenges that they face each day. So, in conclusion, we ask that both sides, both of us, work together to settle the contract that we have on the table right now and move forward as soon as possible. Thank you.
That concludes public participation for tonight. Under Chair's reports, I would like to entertain a motion at this time to table the superintendent's evaluation until next month. May I have a motion? Motion made by Naomi, seconded? Jess, thank you. I'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion passes. Thank you. I'd also at this time, it's getting close to that time of year when we start thinking about the budget for next year. I'd like to announce the Budget Subcommittee, which will consist of this year Maria Molnar, Julia Silverio, and myself. And I'd like to thank you ladies for offering your time to support the budget team. And that's the end of my comments at this time. I'd like to turn the meeting over to the superintendent.
Thank you. Tonight, we have a few items for you, including the wellness policy discussion. In a moment, I'm going to have my colleagues here share an update on that. Of course, we're going to have the MSBA project updates and then a teaching and learning standing agenda item. I'll start with the wellness policy, and I have Carol Noonan and Odanis here who will share with us some updates, and we'll have a discussion about some of the highlights that the committee is offering for discussion.
Good evening, LAE Board members. My name is Carol Noonan. I am the Food Service Director for Lawrence Public Schools, and thank you for allowing us to come here tonight. We are presenting our LPS wellness policy revisions. A little background. The original policy was adopted, I believe, in 2012 with several revisions after that. And in June of 2021, we had to do an assessment, a formal assessment of our policy, which was completed last year in June of 2022 due to the pandemic. So we met in May with several new committee members. There was 5 regulars, and we had to add 6 new members due to people leaving the district. So we did that. We assessed our policy. It was very on target, but there were several things that we needed to update and change. One of the things we discussed was adding the Massachusetts and USDA competitive foods standards chart, which tells you what you can and cannot sell or serve in schools. We added a rewards, incentives, and celebration statement. We had a nurse on our team, and she felt that this needed to be added in there, so we did that. We also created a time to celebrate guideline flyer for principals, teachers, just outlining other options for parties, you know, other prizes, other rewards that they could hand out instead of food, like cupcakes. We added Judy Crocker joined our committee from Safe Route to Schools, so we added some of that information into the policy also. And the only other thing we did, we added links to the John Stalker A-list, which is everything that is allowable to be sold in schools. And also there's an alliance calendar, calculator that you can put things through to find out if it's allowable. So that's what we do. So we'd like to present that and hope for your vote next month. If you have any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I've seen, well, I don't know much of how like things work, but I've seen like how that policy is taken into effect. For example, last year in the school store here at Lawrence High, I remember like those different candies that students can buy and whatnot. And this year, I'm in charge of running the school store, and I've seen some changes. Like, for example, that candy that was there last year, no longer there.
That's right.
Sodas and whatnot. We switched over to like 100% juice and stuff like that. And so I
Yes.
just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. We fought to get those out of that store. And if you have any other questions, my office is right in the high school.
Anyone else? I have a question, Carol.
Yes, Ms. Mariano.
What about fundraisers in the schools, the candy sales? Are those still allowed?
So that is in the policy. You can sell things, but you shouldn't be consuming them. You know, they sell the candy bars to parents, and hopefully they bag them and send them home. They don't, you know, come in the morning, here's a candy bar, and go to class, type of thing. So that is in the policy, part of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that also there's items that can be sold 30 minutes after school.
Yes.
So it's items or foods or candies to be consumed within the school day. That is, you know, that this policy addresses. And we shared, for your convenience, we shared what the current policy is, and also the first page includes what Carol just provided. It's the updates that includes what the committee is recommending to change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
All right, Superintendent.
Okay, thank you both. Do not see Dan here from the city. So do you want me?
He's not here.
Sorry, I was just seeing if,
We're looking for
colleagues
Dan
from the-
McCarthy.
I don't
Is
s-
anyone representing the City of Lawrence Planning Department?
Okay.
All right, I guess at this time, we'll take another vote to table his presentation. I'd entertain a motion to table the construction easements for the intersection improvement project at Marston and East Havel Street.
So moved.
Thank you, Jess. Second?
Second.
All right, I'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The motion passes.
Great. Next, we want to invite the Anti-Racist Committee and our Assistant Superintendent, Melissa Spash, who leads this, to share with you an update and some recommendations that the committee has been working on for us.
Thank you so much for including us on the agenda this evening. My name is Alex Rock. I'm here with another member of the Anti-Racism Committee. Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Jonathan Guzman, Vice President of the Lawrence School Committee, part of the Anti-Racist Committee.
So we are two members of a committee that makes up members of Lawrence Public Schools as school leaders, teachers, community members, and soon to be students as well. Great. So Jonathan and I will be speaking on behalf of the Anti-Racism Committee here for Lawrence Public Schools. So Jonathan and I have a number of slides that we'll go through to present the work that we've been doing at this point in time, and at the end, we will leave time for some questions at the end. We'll go to the next slide. So real quick, we want to go over what our committee consists of. So, and also the background of where our committee came from. So Lawrence Public Schools determined that there was a need for this work following the murder of George Floyd in the spring of 2020. Superintendent Paris gathered a group of school leaders to have an open forum. At that point in time, we were meeting over Zoom. And following that meeting, there was the request for school leaders that were interested in being a part of this committee. I was one of the early adopters to that group, and from that group, we then have expanded to be more representative of all of our school district. So including community leaders, parents, administrators, teachers, and as I mentioned earlier, soon we'll have students be a part of that committee as well. In the early phases, our committee decided that it was really important for us as an anti-racism committee to make the recommendation that Lawrence Public Schools partners with an external auditor to look at our school district, to do an equity audit to determine what we should really be prioritizing, and helping us really establish the work for our school district in cultural responsiveness, equity, and anti-racist practices.
So this is loud. I can use the projection, right? So what we were able to do, the team in particular, to do this process and determine the priorities through a proposed process that we were able to go in with Blackprint to do a district-wide equity audit. And the purpose of this partnership was to help LPS determine the priorities that we should be looking at as a district in the lens of to become an anti-racist school district. And what BP did was that they came in and they were able to do an audit, an equity audit that consisted of visiting our district schools. They interview with central office leaders. They were able to speak with students at the middle school level, the high school level, and they were able to host town halls that actually I was actually been able to attend one of those and hear the parents speak. And they also conducted those with teachers and paraprofessionals. And through that, we were able to enter the committee itself with a professional learning that they were able to provide to this committee to build on our capacity for this work. And what we were able to get from them and the results, it was that they were able to share with us on May 2022 their findings. And that was provided to the committee at the same time that it was provided to the superintendent. And in August 2022, the results were shared with the school leaders of the district.
Blackprint gave us multiple recommendations on how we should proceed with becoming a more equitable school district. The advice that they gave us, then as an anti-racism committee, then came back and then we looked at all the different things that they recommended and really identified two that we thought are really important for us to begin with. As a school district, we became very clear that we need to come up with some common understandings, common definitions, and professional learning when it comes to defining terms of equity, cultural responsiveness, and anti-racist processes within our school district. Speaking very much from my own personal experience and hearing this equity audit, not just as a part of an anti-racism committee, but amongst fellow school leaders, is there was this aha moment for many of us of, well, we thought we were doing this, we thought we were working towards this, but we all were working under a different assumption of what was equity, what was an anti-racist practice, what was cultural responsiveness. And so I feel very strongly, and the anti-racism committee feels very strongly, that our first step is really making sure that we have a common understanding and a common framework for how we are going to move forward in that direction as a school district. So that is the recommendation that we are making. Simultaneously, there is a need within Lawrence Public Schools for us to prioritize the recruitment and retention of Latinx, Black, Indigenous people of color, and professionals that follow anti-racist practices within our school district. We think that particularly in the roles of teacher and school administrators. So these are in alignment with the recommendations from the partner that we have chosen to work with us, Blackprint, and we really hope that we can be a part of this process moving forward and making all of Lawrence Public Schools a more equitable school district. Thank you. Any questions, feedback?
You can go first.
I'm sorry, questions?
Yes, okay.
Naomi, go ahead.
Yes, I'm looking at slide number 1, and you have that is comprised of parents, community leaders, administrators, teachers, and soon-to-be students. And the question that I have is, how did you engage parents, and was activities and discussions bilingual in order to include parents that might not speak the language? And do you have representation from different schools?
Yeah, fantastic question. So we created multiple opportunities through town halls for family members to be able to participate in all of those sessions. They were conducted in both English and in Spanish.
Okay.
And there were opportunities particularly for families that wanted to have that solely in Spanish as well.
And representation from different schools? Like how is that distributed?
I don't know off the top of my head of what the attendance was from every particular school. We do have that information. It was shared with every single school to be able to participate in.
Oh, so you did it like individual schools? The
So
forum, is that?
Superintendent Paris?
Sure, I can add here. So all of the schools received comprehensive visits that included classroom observations. And then the town halls and infinity groups were district-wide. So invitation was district-wide. I'll add that the current team who is presenting this committee has parent representation, teacher representation, community representation, and administration involved. And so what we're adding to that team is the students moving forward as we continue to build on those recommendations and design the very specific action plan. Is like, how do you get voice from all stakeholders on like, what does it mean to be equitable? What does it mean to be anti-racist? So we're all operating under the same definition.
Okay. Thank you.
And what I would want to add is that even in the committee, we have a parent that speaks Spanish, and we're able to have translation while we're going through the meetings. So he's able to engage. Ismael brings a component to the table, a perspective that we always need when we're having these discussions. So I want to just give a clap right to the district for making that happen, that we have a parent that represents the majority of the community.
Thank you.
Louis?
I just have a quick question about how you plan on picking out students. Would it just be a random, or would you ask them individually? And would it be both middle school and high school, or just one?
It's a fantastic question. We are still determining the process in which we are able to make sure that this opportunity is available for both high schoolers and middle school students. We're working with members of the anti-racism committee that work at some of the middle schools and at the high schools to determine a process, so that way students have the opportunity to participate if they so choose.
Jess?
Can you just help me understand a little bit more
exactly where you are in the process now. So you've gone through this initial audit, and Blackprint has kind of analyzed the results of that audit and made certain recommendations. And now it's not that your committee's work is over. Now you're adding students to the committee, and now you're going to start to, like, can you go to the next slide? Or next one? The next one after that? Thanks. So this is not fleshed out yet, is what you're saying. And so now students are entering the process, and you're going to talk about, like, creating some definitions, thinking about what kinds of professional development need to be implemented, and then figuring out specific strategies around recruitment and retention of Latinx and other teachers and educators of color. Is that, am I describing it? Is my understanding correct?
I think you have a pretty good framework there. And
Okay.
what we're going to want to do is we want to make sure that now we know the things that we need to prioritize. So we need to really define those words, and we need to really look to experts in this topic.
Yeah.
Right? And so we need to define, after we define, we really need to then think through how do we then communicate that to all the stakeholders within Lawrence Public Schools.
Okay.
And not just here's the definition, but then here this is what it looks like in action.
Right.
Then there's the professional development component that goes along with that. And now professional development needs to not just be like a one-time thing, but it needs to be a reoccurring thing, so that way it then becomes practice. And it becomes something of like our way of being within Lawrence Public Schools, so we can ensure that all students, all staff members, all families are experiencing this type of anti-racism culture that we are striving to exude here within our school district. And then we need to come back and see, like, the things that we put in place, did they work? And then so an additional equity audit to see if the things that we put in place to get better, did we in fact achieve our goal?
Just maybe a suggestion, and you can take it or leave it, but I think that there are some interesting things that LPS is already doing around teacher recruitment and on both the paraeducator and the teacher side of things, around recruiting and retaining and advancing educators of color. And I think it would be great to have some of the educators who've been involved in that process be part of some of these discussions, so that, you know, as the district is thinking about evolving and expanding those strategies, that, you know, you're drawing on the lived experience of those people, right? Like what in those programs worked for them, what could be improved, you know, where do we need to double down on investment or efforts around recruitment and retention for, you know, educators that reflect our student body.
I absolutely agree. And I'm really excited about some of the pathway programs that have been put in place, so that way we can support staff members in the role of paraprofessional into classroom teachers. And I'm really excited about the opportunities that will present for our school district.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Maria?
I just have a comment. Thank you for doing this work, and I'm excited to see about, you know, who's participating in it with you too. And I would just say my own organization started a journey similar to this, and I guess in terms of time expectations, we were told that, you know, obviously this work is never done, and it could take up to 10 years to be even close. So I just want, hopefully that everybody in the board and in the community knows that, you know, as long as the work moves forward, you know, that's really what we want to see, and that there should not be time expectations as long as there is an effort with regards to this type of work. And because I'm assuming that these are only 2 of the recommendations of the audit, but there are other ones that, you know, these are the critical ones that you guys identified, right?
That is correct.
So that's all. Just we'll be patient, but I'm really excited about this work.
Julia, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, Pat. And I had a 2-part question, but I know he answered the half of it when to Louis. But my question is, why were not at least some of the high schoolers involved in the discussions from the very beginning? Why are we looking at them now? And I understand this was the perimeter of setting up, the work that was going to take place. But it seems to me that the students have a lot to say in situations like this. And so I'd like to know why they were not included from the very beginning.
I think that you are absolutely right in that high schoolers and I believe middle schoolers as well. I think seventh graders and eighth graders have a profound voice and have a perspective that is really important to be a part of this dialogue. At the beginning phase, when we first got started as an anti-racism committee, we were still, finding our feet and our path forward. Now we're really at the place in which we are ready to expand the group, and we're excited to have the student representation be part of this work.
Hi, I'd like to add a little bit more context that during the equity audits, when there were visits like Superintendent Paris mentioned to each of the schools, in the middle schools and the high schools, there were student focus groups as part of those. So there was voice that went into the equity audit from the start, just to add that context.
Thank you. I appreciate that because that should have been included just like that, I think, so that this sort of saved us this question. But I'd like to see moving forward that the students are very seriously taken into consideration in the whole process, because after all, it's about them, it's about their lives and where they're going to move forward to once they leave this high school. Thank you.
And Julia, excellent point. Even when I came in, we're currently looking for new community leaders from the community to enter the space as well. As Ms. Bash mentioned, there was during the audit conversations directly with students, and when Blackprint presented their findings, most of it was voiced from the students. So I was really happy to see that the students didn't hold back on explaining the things, right, that they went through, and most of you, all of you have information from this audit in particular. And to see parents involved, and there's some concerns of having the students in the space and the sense of the educational learning. So we're looking into that. How do we integrate students while they're still attending school, and we're not taking them away from their learning experience to be part of this amazing work?
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much.
Can I add something quickly too?
Oh, wait, I'm
Just
sorry.
to the point that Julia was making, something we learned as well, because we had the same question in terms of when we were having our own audit, we were thinking families and children first, but the recommendation really was that, setting up agency or school culture first, because that is the most likely to be, obviously, setting the tone for the school that the students attend. So obviously, while it's really important that the students were part of the audit, which I completely agree, and I agree that starting the culture setting at the leader and the teacher level, it's, at least I was convinced that by them that it's the most productive way to do it, because it really sets a tone for teaching the students and for treating the students.
Okay, we all set? Thank you, gentlemen, and Melissa.
Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
Great, so next we're going to have our MSBA project updates. So Danis, if you wouldn't mind introducing the Oliver School project team.
Sure, good evening. Thank you, Superintendent. I'm here with the Oliver team, Mateo from Consigli and Deb Marai, who's our OPM. Mateo will move us through or lead the short presentation that we have for you here tonight. The presentation tonight is just to give you an update in terms of the timeline for the project, where we are as of today, some great things that have happened since we were last here, and then we'll show you, Mateo will walk you through a drone image so you can see live how that space is looking. So I'll turn it over to Mateo.
Thanks, Adonis. So I'm Mateo Batista, Senior PM for Consigli, the construction manager on the project. So like Adonis said, very brief presentation, but I'd love for this to be conversational. So if there's any questions, feel free to jump in. In terms of the schedule, I think I am prohibited from saying that we are ahead of schedule, but schedule is looking very well. On track to turn over the school for the summer of 2025, so we'll open up that school year. Currently, probably, we'll start the steel erection towards the end of the summer, so that will be the next kind of major milestone and really a visual representation of the progress that's happening. In terms of project status, so really important, we got the appropriation and the approval for the full GMP, which has allowed procurement to begin, now bringing on our subcontractor partners that are going to be putting in the work. In terms of what we've done to date, the early enabling utility work has been largely completed, so the work in Haverhill Street and in Oak. There's still going to be some more work, but that's largely been completed. And then really the focus has been on the foundations. There's a huge site work component for the addition in terms of very deep excavations and ground improvements to allow the 5-story building that we're going to be putting in. And we'll see that kind of in the photos. Yeah.
I'll just add here that on October 4th, we needed to go back to City Council. I think you all remember when we came here before to share an update and to share that unfortunately due to inflations and the supply-demand challenges due to the pandemic, the project was faced with having to go back to the city and to our city councilors to request additional appropriation to be able to continue the project. So on October 4th, we went before City Council and the councilors approved an additional appropriation of $15.5 million to be able to continue to move forward with the project. So that's the good news, the great news that I started with saying before the presentation.
Thanks. And then there is a component of the building that's remaining, so that's been fully abated and ready for the renovation. In terms of what's going on right now, finishing up on the masonry restoration. So in the existing wings to remain, we've repointed the brick that's staying. We've also salvaged some of the granite from the prior building that we demolished, and that will be used kind of throughout the site in site work elements and also in the new building. And again, the majority of the work is in the site work. It's excavating. There's about a 20-foot cut, so we're going 20 feet below the surface to install the foundation of the building and kind of the basement level. So that's what we'll see predominantly in the video that we're going to show. Yeah. All right, so what you see wrapped in white, those are the existing wings to remain. We protected them as the areas that you're seeing were interior masonry, so we've covered that to protect it from the elements. And then in the back, you kind of see stretching northward and then outward. That's the footprint of the new building, so it goes both to the left and the right along Oak Street. So we drove what's called sheet piles. So essentially it's 30 feet long sheets of metal into the ground that allows us to do the deep excavation without undermining any of the existing properties. And so what we're seeing now is with those sheets being installed, excavating, we're going to be installing some bracing to hold the sheets in place, and then that will allow us to excavate even deeper. In addition, we've installed a pretty significant dewatering system. The water level is somewhat high, so in order to keep it from becoming a pool, we have pumps and dewatering areas that will essentially keep it dry while we're doing our work. And you can kind of see the facade that's that's kind of spanning in between of the two wings. So that is self-standing. There's no floors behind it. So what you're seeing there is shoring to keep that in place until we install the new structural steel that will eventually support the building. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Amazing.
You guys should come by.
I
Check it
can't
out.
believe it. I can't believe it's standing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But it's a beautiful facade, so I'm glad you guys kept it. Yeah.
All right, any questions from the board? I just have one question.
Yeah.
I know the city gave us 15.5 million, and I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, but do you foresee any more items being more costly than what you've planned for?
So the structure of the contract is such that we've provided a GMP, which stands for a guaranteed maximum price. So we've kind of taken on that risk now in terms of what is in the project. We have to build it for the money that's been allotted. Now, if we add things to the project, that's different, and that allows a GMP to grow. But in terms of risk, that kind of minimizes your exposure to any price increases. And that's really, the importance of getting the approval for the appropriations is to allow us to start those negotiations with subcontractors, lock in pricing, because a lot of this work is not going to happen for another 2 years. Obviously, they are concerned with inflation. So generally speaking, our plan is to procure this stuff very early, store it so it's available, and that we're kind of insulated from those price increases in the future.
Thank you. Any more questions? Julio, do you have a question?
No, I'm all set. I just want to thank him for the report. It looks amazing, and I'm looking forward. I can't wait to see that building completed. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Next, we're going to have the LAE School Project. And before we do that, we do have a video to show you, to share with you where the current swing space is. So David, that one's queued up. We would love to see that one as the team gets ready to do their update as well.
Here we are in front of the LAE School at the corner of Merrimack Street and Parker Street. We're very excited about the new fence that the facilities department is putting up. Moving into the school building, you are going to see that there is a security desk. We have a security officer that is opening the door for visitors. Right now, we will have a buzzer, but it's not installed yet. Our parent liaison is also at her desk when the security officer has to leave to go to other parts of the building. On the first floor, we have our first and second grade classrooms. You are going to see that every classroom space is different. We are very creative in the way we've been able to use the classroom spaces. Teachers worked with their teams to come up with ideas to make learning accessible to all children, and we are very happy about the size of the classrooms. The spaces are big enough to host our students. Teachers have been able to create spaces for small group instruction. They have been able to create spaces for sensory time, quiet time, and classrooms are adjacent to restroom facilities, which is something that we did not have in the prior space. We also have the special ed classrooms and the ESL classrooms near each grade level. We also have a whole wing for the special ed department where the ETF, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and all the ancillary staff have a designated office. So we have a very large cafeteria. We can actually accommodate close to 200 students. All the staff members that work in the cafeteria and the dining area have expressed their gratitude for having the big space to work at and for having everything that they need to be able to prepare meals in a space where it's comfortable. One particular characteristic about the space we're in now is how bright and sunny it is. A very sunny space brings like a positive vibe. Moving from the old LAE school to the new site, was done in a very short time. We started to move on July 25th, and we opened door for staff members to set up classrooms on August 16th. We are very fortunate to have the staff members that we have that made this possible. We were super excited to be where we are now, and we are working together and making this new site a great LAE school.
So as you can see, they're enjoying their new swing space. And so let's hear the update. Where are we?
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening. With me here tonight, are also members of the LAE School Project, Sharesh Bhatia, who's the president of Mount Vernon, Construction Management, and also Bill Peters, who's going to be leading us in the presentation from Mount Vernon Group Architects. Dave, whenever you get a moment, if you can pull the... Okay. Give us 5 seconds so we can pull the presentation.
Presentation. This gives me a good opportunity to share a commercial. On November 19th, Saturday the 19th, there's going to be a walkthrough, a final walkthrough of the existing LAE school. And we're inviting former staff, students, families, community members, anyone that would like to take that last walk through the LAE school. We will have a memory book there where you can share your memories, and we're also planning on doing a time capsule. So if you have something significant that you would like to bring, we're asking you to please put your name on it so we can record it, that you brought it to, for the time capsule. And we're going to hopefully have a very special place for that capsule. So hope to see everybody there at the LAE School on Saturday, November 19th.
Thank you, Pat. Sorry about that, members of the LAE Board. We have the presentation up now, and Bill will walk us
Question, I'm sorry, from 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay, thanks.
All right, go ahead.
How you doing tonight? Would like to bring you up to date on, right now we're working 60% CDs for submission to the MSBA on the 17th. We are also putting together an early release site package, which we hope to get out by the end of December. And that will include hazmat, demolition of the existing building, and getting the site ready for when the general contractor comes on later in the next year. For people that don't know, this is the LAE site. The white portion on this site, which pretty much goes sidewalk to sidewalk, is the new LAE Elementary School. You've got Bruce Street on the left, Trinity on the east or on the right, and Irving is at the front of the school. There will be some minimal parking in the back corner, the north corner. We also have some added storage with our meetings with facilities, and there's also some recycling areas there. We are having some trees on Bruce and Trinity. We went through this with some of the boards, and we've met with zoning, conservation, the historic commission. They also did the walkthrough, so we're hoping to pull elements out of that existing school that were noted and, put them in with the new building around the site and within the building itself. Next. I'll just go through the floor plans quickly now. This is the first floor, which will have the kindergarten up in the left corner. They have their own entrance. The main entrance is on the front or on the bottom, which is Irving, for the elementary and the middle school kids. There's also the cafetorium and the kitchen are on this, along with recycling. On the second floor plan, we have the first and second graders. If you look at the top right and left corners, they have their own neighborhood, little neighborhood schools. And this will happen on all the floors, so they get familiar with the way the school works in their surroundings. Each of these little pods or neighborhoods also has a distributive media with the age-appropriate materials for each of the grade levels. This also has some specialties, music, art, and STE. And there is a courtyard up in the middle there between the first and second grade. That is going to be a play area. And when we get to another slide, I'll talk about that. This is the third floor, which has the third, fourth, and fifth graders. And again, they're all set up so they have little neighborhoods. It also has the gymnasium and the locker room area. And on the fourth floor, this is pretty much the middle school suite with the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And there are science rooms over on the left also. There you go. Whoop. And on the 5th floor, there is adaptive PE in the green and another art space. Out in front of the adaptive PE or the green space, there is a covered area. And when I get to the landscape or the roof drawings, I'll go over those play areas also. Here are some just some images of how the school may look inside. This is the lobby looking out at Irving with the cafetorium. To the right, we're going to be using ceramic tiles on some of the walls and have some feature colors to put some pop into the spaces. This would be a kindergarten team area. In each of the neighborhood areas, there are team areas. The kindergarten area has more of a homey feel. You can see that there's some elements where kids can sit in and read their books and things like that. A typical classroom, we're going to have a feature wall with storage. There's a teaching wall, and we'll use different types of tables and seating arrangements that can be moved around easily. This is one of the type 1 team media areas. We've got a couple different types, but this will show you've got some the media with the small storage shelves and some seating and teaching areas where you can pull a group of students out into that area. We'll have the projectors and the screens so they can teach. And this is just a type 2, similar team area, just a little different setup. This is the cafetorium, so you'll have probably 3 seatings of 350 students. Off to the left is the platform. You can't see the pictures on the right, but it's at the head of the classroom. And then there's a corridor up above. If you see that yellow band, the art rooms that we saw on the other floor look out onto Irving's. And there's a corridor there that looks out over the cafetorium. In the media center, we try and do some features with the ceilings, carpeting on the floors and the furnishings. Actually, on the far side, the left, you'll see a couple of garage glass doors. Those actually open up so they can tie the media in with the technology, which is adjacent. and there's a technology space. Again, with, pop of color on certain walls, just to give it that statement. This is the second floor courtyard space that I was talking about. And this will be used by mostly the kindergarten, first and second graders. And it's a lot of low-profile play equipment, rubberized surfaces, play areas. They have raised seating areas and little play equipment. I don't want to call it equipment. It's little structures. And for the main rooftop play area, if you see that checkerboard, blue and gray, right below, that's where the adaptive PE was, right above. So, and that's covered. It's a covered area, so that people can go out there and, if it's raining, you can still get out there and get some fresh air. The green diagonal is a rubberized surface where the kids can run around and play. Much of the gray area you see with some trees and shrubs, that's all concrete pavers for walking around. Off to the diagonal, there's a play structure, nice play structure for the kids. It's all age appropriate, so we've got the play structure there, and as you move up the sheet, you'll see a gray basketball type court. And then above that, there's some swings and a structure with a rope system on it. To the right, you'll see some gardens where they want to do some plantings and grow, vegetables and things of that nature. And then to the far right corner, we've got a quieter area where you'll have some plantings, low-lying trees and shrubs where they can have teaching area, to bring the students up there and have small classroom gatherings. And this is just a image of looking at the southeast. Main entrance is right in the front there where the reddish brick is. Cafeterium's off to the left, but that's the southeast. You can get more of an idea on the roof play also. There will be obviously a fence system around all this area. And this is the southwest. Same, looking from Bruce towards Trinity, up Irving Street.
There you go. Thank you, Bill. Well, like Bill mentioned, we're on 60% 60% submission to the MSBA would be next November 17th. And then we're looking forward to releasing the early site package by end of this year. The idea is to get the abatement work done and the demolition done before we hire the general contractor. So we'll be looking into the bidding of the project in spring of this year and start the construction in June, around the June of 2023. The idea is with the project completion of July 2025. And the other good news is we were way high on our schematic design. At schematic design we're 81 million. At design development, our numbers were high. We did do some value management and brought the project within the scope. And we had discussion with the Lawrence Public Schools, and the direction we had from Cynthia was always, Superintendent Paris, was keep the educational curriculum in place, and we made sure we did not sacrifice anything on the educational curriculum for the students. We made changes to some of the finishes to bring the project under budget. And at 60% design, we are now, after doing our final estimates, we are still within the budget of the schematic design. So hopefully we don't have to go to City Council to look for additional funds. And moving forward, we hope to keep the project under control and from budget-wise. So we would be looking to make a submission to the MSBA. So if we're looking for a board's approval to do that. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have before you.
Any questions? Julia?
No questions.
Jess?
Yeah, I don't remember whether you guys talked about this in a previous meeting, but I was just thinking about what the report on the Oliver School was around some of the water management that they're having to do there, and given that this site is even closer to the Spigot River, particularly, I think, an area where the river was channelized, like, I'm just wondering if that's been taken into account in terms of project design, and if you're anticipating, a lot of, like, mitigation of potential water on the site that you're going to have to do.
Excellent question. Yes, we have plans to, we're not, like the Oliver School, they're going under the level 20 feet down. We're not going underground. We're staying, actually, we are in the, some portions of our school are in the 100-year flood level zone. So for that, we have to do mitigation of putting underground storage in front of the school, but that will be very minimal portion that we have to do. But our foundations will be about, at the street level, about 4 feet below the street level. So we don't have that issue of what Oliver is experiencing. But we will have some mitigation measures as we do the foundation work to make sure we don't have that, in case something happens, we don't have any water, issues there.
Just out of curiosity, how come we don't have to go down as deep? I mean, this is also a 5-story structure with steel construction, right? Like, how come the Oliver is going down much deeper on the foundation?
I believe, if I remember correctly, for the Olivers, what I've seen on the Oliver School is that they are, because of the footprint of the school, they're going in the front portion, which I believe is the front portion, they're going down and going down 20 feet to make the, because of the restrictions, whatever they were facing with the design, in keeping the existing building, the existing facade in place.
Okay. Thanks.
Right, just really good question. So there are totally two different projects where the LAE School, it's going to be a complete demolition. Everything is coming out, and then we're just building up. Where with the Oliver, because of the constraints of the site, and also because of the historic pieces of it, the team, we expanded, the Oliver expanded sideways to both sides, and then we needed to keep the front facade, so the project became a lot more complicated, and also because of the constraints. That's not the same for the LAE, it's just the entire LAE School will come down, and then we're just building up.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Julia? Julia?
Yes?
Any questions about the Leahy project?
No, I think it looks wonderful, and I'm looking forward to seeing those schools completed and our children have a great time, a learning experience in them. Thank you.
Okay, hearing no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion for the Lawrence Alliance for Education to recommend the submission of the 60% construction documents for the Francis M. Leahy School to the MSBA Board. Do I have?
So moved.
So moved, Jess? Second?
Second.
Maria? Thank you. I'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The motion passes.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 12th meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Thank you, Julia. Any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion passes. Okay, lastly, I will entertain a motion for the board to enter into an executive session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. As a reminder to the audience, the board will adjourn from executive session. So thank you.